had the privilege of knowing Norb Makowka for over 30 years. I was very honored and privileged to serve on the NAFED board that made the decision to hire Norb back in 1992. NAFED would not be in the position we are today without Norb. NAFED would not have the certification program. We would not have the DOT training that we have. Besides the technical, what I learned from Norb that was to me and the grand scope of life that was more important than the technical aspects of how to be a good man. I learned very quickly of what a gracious, caring, giving, generous man, father, husband, grandfather that he was. And I miss him. I'm going to continue to miss him, but I'm going to work real hard to remember the good times and the knowledge that he shared with me and the laughter and stories. And again, I'm working real hard to smile when I think about him instead of breaking down in tears, because that's the kind of man he was, and that's how he would want us to remember him.
If there's a word that describes Norb, it would be authentic. Authentic in terms of true to one's own personality, character, and spirit. I mean, regardless of his boisterous, laugh and his big smile, it was all about how are you doing? And not that business wasn't important, but there was always that moment of asking, how are you? How's your family? How can I help you? And I always found that just dear to my heart about Norb. And obviously we got to the business part, that was never a question. And when we did business, it was always in the interest of what's best for the industry as a whole. This was not something that, well, hey, what best serves NAFED, what best serves myself personally or the organization that I work for. But Norb's contributions certainly are quite significant. His rapport and reputation in the industry, well recognized, and there's no doubt that we'll certainly miss that big smile and that boisterous laugh as the industry moves forward.
Norb's legacy will be way more than just the man himself, but he put marks in the legislation in this industry. He's put marks in the codes of this industry. He has moved this industry into different growth. He has brought things to the table that probably most people don't even recognize. And I think the younger group, this morning I met a young man and he said to me, what I know of Norb Makowka is that he knew more about this industry than the industry itself. And I used to like to bleep with him in training classes because I felt like he needed somebody to lighten him up because the load that he was carrying all the time was so heavy. And that kind of resonated with me when this young guy, I mean, I don't think he was 25, said that he recognized how much Norb Makowka is actually carrying of this industry. I mean, he really is NAFED. He is an icon in NFPA. I mean, he has done so much in so little time to direct this industry, and it's almost sad that there's going to be people who come in and haven't had the opportunity to sit down, share a cigar, share a drink, break bread with him, tell dumb jokes, hear his war stories. There was just so much to him. There's volumes of Norb that is going to be missed.
So I'd come to NAFED every year for the last decade. And the first person that I would always run into was Norb. Norb was always the person who I'd talk with about what my presentation was going to be or whatever. So I got to know Norb that way. Norb was just simply a gentleman. He was always very open in help, in advice, and really in every aspect. I spoke to Norb probably maybe almost once a month on legislation. We would reach out to each other about things that we had heard about in various states, and he was just a complete joy.
Norb was always thinking of everybody else. He was also a gentleman's gentleman that would always open the door for people, always making sure that everybody was okay, he was just that kind of guy all the way through. One of the most alive people I think I've ever met. And he, just through the years, he mentored so many people and got so many people into this association to, I mean, just like me, I got involved in a lot of the committees and whatnot in this association just because of Norb, of his commitment, and he never, ever, if he disagreed with you, it wasn't an argument. You kind of discussed it, and and he usually had the facts to back it up. So he's not a person you ever wanted to get into an argument with, because I can guarantee you he would win, that's for sure. And yeah, he will be missed, not only by me and everybody else, but this association. And I think he's for sure a one of a kind.
Norb was, he was the answer guy. I mean, he knew virtually everything in the NFPA documents. I sat on NFPA 10 in '96 representing NAFED. When I couldn't go, Norb always was easy to call and fill in. But when any of our people needed an answer or the process or the procedure on how to do something, just call Norb. If he didn't know, he would find out and get back with you. I mean, he was a tremendous individual.
What I'm going to miss most about Norb, first is the technical aspect and the advocacy that he brought to the industry. I mean, he was such a strong voice, influential voice for the things that we do. And just like any other job that we have as individuals, that was the torch he carried for us. So I'm going to miss him in that regard. I think the industry is going to miss him in that regard. I'm going to miss the personal interaction and really understanding, what was happening in the south side of the city, new restaurants or, parades or, as the city comes back to life, what he's doing with his family to get out and about. And then what I'm going to miss going forward is going to be the interaction. Even today, checking into the NAFED conference in Las Vegas, he wasn't there. And that, visually signaled, okay, it's a change, right? And that's going to, linger as we go through the next 2 conferences the rest of this year.
He had an encyclopedia type knowledge of our industry that is never going to be replaced. You could call him up and ask him a question from 25 years ago, and he'd call up that information and say, I've got that document, it's in my desk drawer, and I'm going to pull it out. And it was written on a napkin in 1987 by somebody, and he still had it, and he knew what was on there and could quote it. And those kind of things are just gone now, and we'll never get them back.
I met Norb through NAFED decades ago, and Norb and I are the same age. We have shared stories and developed a strong personal relationship, not only he and I individually, but also our wives. We would see each other at board meetings. We've talked about our grandchildren. We've talked about the ups and downs of being grandparents and helping our kids. And Norb is a personal friend of mine who I miss very much. And it's going to be different this year at the conferences without him here.
During my terms on the board and as president, I had a chance to work more closely with Norb. And it was kind of a joke in the boardroom when we would assign duties to staff. It was always, well, let's give this to Norb, or this sounds like a job for Norb. And soon we were afraid we were going to overload his wagon, so to speak. And there's a saying in the South that, forget about the mule, load the wagon, or give the work to the busiest guy you know and it'll get done. And Norb never failed. Not only did he do the work, but he enjoyed the work. And you can tell when someone really enjoys what they do. I always ask him about his wife, Sue, and he would instantly light up. and say, well, let me tell you what's going on with Sue, or let me tell you how she's been. And you could tell instantly his world revolved around her. And that was so heartwarming to me, that here's a guy that is going to take time to stop doing whatever it is he's involved with to tell me about his family and his wife and what they meant. And as a result, Norb meant a tremendous amount to me. We're going to miss him. It's going to be hard to fill his place, and it will be years before his footprint disappears from NAFED. Godspeed, Norb.